work along with this. So I'd like to just take a quick moment, not only just for my sake, for everyone else's sake, to perhaps have a bit of a breather. Take a moment to just breathe and to just relax a little bit into our seats. So if everybody could sit up straight, have their feet placed firmly on the ground. You can place your hands on your lap or on your desk, anywhere you feel most comfortable. And if you will, I advise that you may close your eyes, or if it's more comfortable, to let your eyes just fall down to the ground. And to just take a deep breath in and let it out. Allow a couple more breaths in. Just think about yourself firmly in place in your chair. And if this outside thought comes in, let it linger if it will, then let it go. Just appreciate this moment. When you feel most at rest, you may please feel welcome to open your eyes. Thank you for indulging me with that. I already feel calmer. So this particular presentation was made for my class called Sustainable Cities. We were supposed to do a reading on sustainable city action and particular aspects of it, of what people have done to try and bring more attention to light of how important this is and how we can specifically have a target goal of what we want to impact on. So ours was by these two authors, Nagel and Rees, and their definition of a ecological footprint. Their particular model is an analysis that they have conducted through a series of studies on Canadian and North Americans in general, their ecological footprint versus Netherlands footprint. So you're going to see some interesting contrast between the two of them. So first off, an overview
Trying to get the right image.
A definition of an ecological footprint as defined by them is the load that is imposed by a given population on nature. So it is the amount of land area that's necessary for sustaining current levels of resource consumption and the waste discharged by a population. So what they were intending to create when they made this analysis model in the first place was that it could be applied to any mass population, whether it be an individual, it be a small community, a town, or a city. So it has a large breadth of range of population sizes that it can be applied to. So one of the things that they wanted to also define was the carrying capacity of a land. So an example of that was if you were to take this terrarium bubble, an imaginary one, where a city is just encapsulated inside of it, and gauging what is the likelihood that it's going, how long it would be able to survive on its own within that bubble, no outside contact, nothing imported or exported. And of course, you can imagine that a city is likely only going to last a few days on their whatever resources they may actually have in there. So we ask ourselves, how big would that glass hemisphere, if we now imagine it being flexible enough to expand, how big would it have to be to support a city? So when we understand first, on the first base, how much an individual has to consume in order to survive, this takes into account how much that individual is willing to pay, how much to sustain a certain quality of life. Because it's not just how much that they actually need, it's also how much people want as well. That plays a factor into it. So I'm going to quickly need a moment to find find these numbers specifically, is how much per hectare acre that a human will require in order to sustain themselves at the present consumption levels, specifically for North Americans. So based upon their studies, a typical person will require 4.3 hectare acres or 207 meters squares worth of land in order to sustain themselves. So considering all that they took into account of social values, energy, material, content, and goods and services, they took all that would take to produce all these things and made actual statistical, mathematical-based estimates of how much would be required. So it helps, so what's good about this particular model is that it will help with measuring a population's, of course, their population's consumption levels, pointing out where their shortfalls are coming from, and kind of figuring out, okay, where could we put that energy towards? Is there something that will help bring back as much as we take from nature? So I'm just going to skip ahead some of these things because I want to get to the main point of this particular TED Talk. What's nice about it is that it simplifies, like complex functions to help better understand and make it more presentable to people overall. So one of the things that I wanted to compare first was the Netherlands study that they did specifically, where this particular study was done in the 1990s, so I don't know what the population level of the Netherlands is at this point. But at the time, there was about 15 million people, and on average, they consume far less than North Americans do. But as you'll see soon, they only considered 4 factors to help kind of simplify things a little bit: the built-up land use, the food production, forest products such as paper, and fossil energy in general. So what they found was, you see the Netherlands, that little circle there, that is the amount of space that they would need to support that entire population of 15 million people, 15 times the size of the actual country. So again, now I want to bring up a point of how that works in comparison to how North Americans operate. This is a comparison size of the size of Texas versus all of Europe. So as you can see, we're massive, and we have a lot of people. Texas has a population size that's currently about 26,900,000, way over that, somewhere around that range. And it really gives you a really strong indication of knowing that they had used their mathematical studies to show how much this small population required of their energy use and of their consumption use, to imagine how much do people need in order to sustain this size here, considering Texas is also the second most populous state in the entire country. So that's the main thing that I wanted to show. The end.